Okay, maybe the Big Ten doesn't have the depth of marquee matchups that the SEC does in week one of the 2024 college football season, but there's two teams with some big matchups in the B1G right out of the gate. The USC Trojans and the Penn State Nittany Lions, and their matchups in those inaugural games of this season might set the tone for the rest of 2024.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
College football has no preseason, so when you undergo a lot of change in the offseason, a lot of times you like to put in those group of five games, those FCS games to really get your feet under you and really find out what you have as a football team. Sometimes every team doesn't have that luxury, and the schedule makers, the athletic directors and company, put some big-time games right off the bat. The USC Trojans will play the LSU Tigers in Vegas. The Penn State Nittany Lions will travel on the road to the West Virginia Mountaineers. We're going to find out a lot about the Cardinal and Gold and the Blue and White right off the bat in the season. I want to first start with our new friends to the west in Hollywood, the USC Trojans. We are going to find out a lot about specifically that defense right out of the gate, because when you look at what LSU has been since Brian Kelly has been the head coach, if they've been one thing, they have been a team that has been able to move the ball on offense, specifically through the pass. Although they've lost a lot, you look at Malik Neighbors, you look at Jaden Daniels as first-round NFL draft picks, you bring back Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback, who they feel pretty good about, and they've done some things at wide receiver where they might have some depth, and that track record might keep on going in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. When you look at what USC has been, specifically on the defensive side of the football, this has been a team that has had a lot of difficulties with a lot of things, but I think back there in coverage, man-on-man zone, whatever it has been, USC has been a team that has struggled to cover. When you have a lot of change, these tests, especially right away in the season, can tell a lot about your football team. I want to hit this tweet from Fight On Eddie from Twitter. For USC, it's extremely important this game against LSU is. USC hasn't started the season against a Power 5 team since Alabama in 2016. Trojans, sorry for bringing that up. I feel like we've been lulled into a false sense of security, blowing out teams like San Jose State and Rice. A win or even a close loss will tell us how the rest of the season could go, and that is a great way, Eddie, to put this, and that is a great way to segue into my next point and what I really want to talk about. Because this game against LSU is really going to tell us a lot about this Trojans team, and it's really going to set the tone, I think, for the entire season. This is such a proving ground right off the bat for USC. Their defense has been much maligned by myself and a lot of others out there in the media space. And it's not only proving to people like us and shutting down the doubters, it's proving to themselves. It's putting that confidence in their head, because I think a lot of the people that are returning, a lot of the incumbents on this team on the defensive side of the ball know what they have been the last 2 years under Alex Grinch as their defensive coordinator, and they want to flip that script, and they want to prove to everybody involved that they can play well against an offensive football team like the LSU Tigers. But if LSU goes out and they put up 45 points or whatever on them, now you're kind of back to where you have been, and you're still in the same space. If you can't cover, if you can't tackle in space, it's the same old story, or it could be the same old story. It's an out-of-conference game. So losing this game isn't certainly going to be the end of the world, but I want to get to a tweet here from Greg Thatcher that kind of takes it one step further as well. Ultimately, winning isn't as important as showing we can stop an offense with actual draftable players on it. It's the first game of a season that, whether other SC fans want to admit it, it's going to be an adjustment. Winning would be huge, but playing well is good enough. That goes into my point once again of proving not only to people like me, but proving to themselves that they can play well defensively against a really good offensive football team. Now, the down part of this is if their defense doesn't show a progression. if they do give up a lot of yards, if they can't cover, if they can't tackle, the same type of stuff that we've seen. If we see major growing pains on the defensive side of the football, things don't really let up. This is not something where they can take multiple weeks to recover from, because although they have Utah State at the Coliseum the very next week, here are 3 out of your first 4 opponents in your Big Ten schedule: Michigan, Wisconsin, and Penn State. It doesn't let up. It is not an easy early start to the Big Ten slate in their first ever Big Ten slate. They got to go on the road to Michigan. Whether they beat LSU or whether they lose to LSU, that's a bad matchup for the Trojans against the Wolverines. Michigan, I can say it pretty cleanly right now, Michigan has a huge advantage on both the offensive line and the defensive line. When we talk about setting the tone, a victory and a great performance against the LSU Tigers could certainly set the tone. I keep on talking about Wisconsin and a big prove it to the nation type of game against Alabama. USC, when we talk about proving the doubters wrong, the opportunity is right there in front of their face immediately against LSU. If they are able to cover well, and newbies like Kamari Ramsey and John Humphrey and Achille Arnold are able to really show that D'Anton Lynn has really flipped this secondary, and if they're able to knock off a team like LSU and their offense really performs and those young receivers look like some big-time playmakers on the outside, they can carry that momentum. Still think Michigan is going to be a challenge, but this could be a USC team. If they can carry the momentum of a victory against the Bayou Bengals in week 1, this could be a 4-1 football team when they face Penn State on October 12th. Let's talk about those Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. Despite last year's big win over West Virginia in Happy Valley, in the opener, going to Morgantown this season against this West Virginia football team is going to be no easy task. I have my eyes on the Penn State secondary because West Virginia maybe has one of the best returning quarterbacks in the Big 12, if not all of college football, in Garrett Green. He really showed as last season progressed that he can be a dangerous threat at the quarterback position. And when you take a look at what Penn State has been over the last handful of seasons, Jair Brown, Joey Porter Jr., Kalen King, Johnny Dixon, a lot of those guys are in the league. A lot of those guys are NFL defensive backs. And I think there are some questions specifically at the corner spot. Safeties you got to feel pretty good about right now if you're the Nittany Lions with Kevin Winston and Jalen Reed, some experience returning at that part of the defense. But when you look at corner, you look at Jalen Kimber coming over from Florida, A.J. Harris coming over from Georgia, Cam Miller is an incumbent as well. Those guys stepping into bigger roles, and the first game of the season, you're going against a team that can throw the football, against a quarterback that can throw the football like Garrett Green, and then you factor in a new defensive coordinator and maybe some newness at the top of your defense with Tom Allen coming in as well. We're going to see exactly where this defense stacks up covering against the pass. The run game is also no slouch for West Virginia. C.J. Donaldson leads a 1-2 tandem that's pretty good in the backfield for the Mountaineers as well. So I've got my eyes on this defense to see if they can set the tone. Will they be as good as Manny Diaz's defense last year? Probably not. That was a really, really good defense, one of the country's top defensive units. And it's okay to take a step down when you lose your coordinator and some of the really good players on this defense as well. I think the reason why I got so excited, and I think a lot of people got excited about Penn State last year, is how they were able to play in this very matchup 1 year ago in the season opener. Drew Aller threw the football really well, and this was just a team that had a lot of cohesion. They looked very impressive right out of the gate. I think we want to see Andy Kotelnicki open up this box that maybe Mike Yurcich had Drew Aller locked in. I think we want to see that arm talent. We've heard a lot about that arm talent. I think we want to see that, and maybe Julian Fleming and Harrison Wallace and maybe even Caden Saunders in the slot really step up and make a big-time impact right away. Because if Penn State is going to be that team to make a run for a Big Ten championship, this offense needs to take that next step. And starting off against a quality opponent away from Happy Valley and making that statement that this Andy Kotelnicki offense is a lot more creative, it's a lot more dynamic, will really prove to a lot of people that Penn State can be that Big Ten championship contender, that they have the weapons on offense, that they have the creativity on offense to be able to take that to the next level at the Big Ten level and then in the college football playoff level as well. I look at this team right now, even before I see them on the field against West Virginia, and yes, I believe that this is a college football playoff team. Now, there's a difference in the 12-team era from a college football playoff team to a college football playoff championship contender, and Penn State maybe seems to be teetering on what they are in terms of those two categories right now. I think this is a huge game right out the gate for Drew Aller. Because if he can get that confidence going early in the season and really develop some game confidence with his wide receivers, he'll be able to really translate through the rest of the season. I think we feel pretty good about what this run game is going to be. Maybe Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen weren't as good as they were in their freshman season, and I think them maybe getting back to what they were as freshmen is a key for them to take that next step up we keep talking about with Penn State. But I think it's this passing game. This passing game needs to be unleashed this season. But what an opportunity for Drew Aller to set the tone with this offense and with this passing game. I think there's a lot of people around college football that were not very impressed with Drew last season. I thought he showed flashes at moments. I thought he kind of struggled with certain other parts of the game at other moments. You look at his numbers from last year, they were pretty damn good for a first-year starting quarterback. And now in year two, with maybe an offensive coordinator that's going to lean into the throw game and the creativity, especially in scheming guys open, this is a great opportunity for Aller to set the tone in the throw game that says, hey, when you play Penn State, you just can't load up the box against Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen. You've got one of the top quarterbacks in the country in 15 standing back there. So that's the threat I think that needs to be established right away, because when you look at this Penn State schedule with no Michigan on it and Ohio State coming to Happy Valley, possibly in a whiteout, things look very favorable for the Nittany Lions. Setting the tone with a big win on the road, I think will tell a lot of people around the country that Penn State is here to play. I want to hear what you guys think. How important are these week one games for both the USC Trojans and the Penn State Nittany Lions to setting the tone for their entire 2024 season? Leave your thoughts, all things Trojans and Nittany Lions, in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.